Hi, this is Julie Murphy with Arizona Farm Bureau. It's Friday. That means it's Talk to a Farmer, but we're in a series where we're featuring chefs that celebrate local. So we're going to call it Talk to a Chef. And I'm way up here, well, not way up here, but I'm up here in Prescott in this secluded, beautiful place out of the way. And I'm here with James Porter. This is the third of our four-part series with chefs. James Porter and I go way back, and you are running Terra Farm and Manor. And okay, you kind of don't give away the location fully all the time, but where can we tell people? This is kind of north of Prescott, right?
North of Prescott, and it is in the middle of the Prescott National Forest. So that's about all I'm going to divulge.
Right. So, but if I want to learn how to cook and I want to spend a couple days at the manor,
TerraFarmandManor.com.
Yeah, and connect with you. And
it's connect with us, and you're going to learn some cooking skills. You're going to learn about where your food comes from. You're going to learn about really, I think, what brings the connectivity for all of us down to just this level of saying, here's the basics. Here's amazing product. Here's amazing vegetables.
Right.
Here's what it means to eat within your boundaries.
Yes, it's just beautiful. This beautiful manor that we're in the midst of. And for those that are joining us live on Talk to a Chef Friday, you can see this, but this is just a microcosm of this whole beautiful place. You've got a big kitchen straight back, but if we walk out onto your flagstone across the patio, you have a teaching kitchen.
We've got a teaching kitchen. We partnered with Sub-Zero Wolf a few years ago, so it's state of the art, the most incredible stuff. So not only are you getting vegetables that were harvested 10 minutes ago, you're getting to cook on the best product out there. And then in some of our outdoor cooking, kind of our outdoor facility, wood burning oven, planchas, French cast iron grills and things like that. So you can go very rustic into the modern day Wolf cooking app.
Very roomy. It looks like you can easily accommodate 20 to 25 students at a time.
You could if I felt that ambitious. But I think one thing about being somewhat secluded is limiting the amount of people that you actually get to interact with at times. And so we try to do about 8 to 12 people.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It's kind of cozy and comfortable. And then again, for those people that have decided that they're going to stay over, is it usually a weekend?
So the classes run Thursday through Sunday.
Okay.
You do have to stay here.
Okay.
It's a package deal.
Awesome.
And everything is included. And we don't have menus. We produce food based on some allergy requests and things of that nature to kind of navigate. But when you're coming out here, you know that you're going to eat amazing food, locally grown food, harvested.
So Chef Porter, I'm going to learn to cook from a premium chef like you, but I also am going to get to eat your food.
100%.
Awesome.
100%.
Because I love your food.
Thank you.
Which is a good transition back. You and I have some history here.
We've got some history. The Farm Bureau, everybody. It's a good relationship.
Back in 2007, if I have my dates right, Wendy would correct us if I'm wrong, but
it might be the end of 2006, I think.
Yeah, 2006, 2007. You guys reached out to me. I had launched Fill Your Plate. FillYourPlate.org is our online directory of direct market farmers and ranchers. You can also do search for farmers markets. You can also search recipes. Some of those recipes on there are probably yours.
I was gonna.
But what we do with that website is try to reach out to Arizona families and tell them the whole point. Local. Let's celebrate local. Let's celebrate our farmers and ranchers and our chefs like you. So you guys contacted me, and you at the time had Topino's. And that was in Scottsdale. Tell us a little bit about that.
Topino Kitchen and Wine Bar. I mean, it was.
I loved it.
It was. I think maybe a little too ahead of its time at the moment, but the mission and the vision was always there about how do we support our local community? How do we support our local wineries? We didn't, we had the Sam Pillsbury's that just had launched. We had the Maynards that just had debuted his first wine on our property. And really this celebration of the Arizona farming community that goes, a journey is watching the development of what we're doing in the state. And it's about these incremental pieces along the way. And that was the first stage. We had one farmer's market downtown, I think at the time. And we were getting the second farmer's market at the Old Town Scottsdale. So we were heavily involved in that. And then our connection, when you and I met, we were able to tie in your connections with these local farmers that
Right.
were to
Yep.
these chefs.
And I think you and Wendy pegged them as the local four dinners.
Local board dinners.
And we do them, I think, on Thursday nights. So 5-course dinner that you created, always pulling in local product. And so that's part of my job. You'd connect with me or fill your plate, and then as your network in the farming community expanded, you probably just called people. But these 5-course dinners, the thing that made them really special was you also asked me to invite at least 5 to 6 farm and ranch couples, and they would be scattered throughout the restaurant. Mom and dad, they were an easy yes.
Yes,
they had to
they were shooing.
they had to say yes to me, their daughter. So I always had that one, and then several others. I'm pretty sure the Kerr dairy family and some other of our farm and ranch families would sit down with your patrons because tickets had to be purchased, all had to be scheduled. I forget. And Topino's was a pretty big place. I think you could have, 55, 60?
Oh, we used to do up to 120 for those dinners.
Oh, wow.
And I think the beauty of it is that you took the producer
right.
and you connected them with the end user.
Right.
And that connection hadn't been made in Arizona before.
No.
Nobody knew, oh my gosh, there's that family that grew this.
Mm-hmm.
And that family didn't get to see the results of their efforts.
Right.
And that was kind of my mission, is how do we take these two passionate people that want to buy this amazing food, and the people that have been historically growing, ranching, and raising that, how do we mend them together? And again, your help was unbelievable, and kind of look back and now look at what's going on in the farming and the chef community of whatever. I think we had a good piece of that. I think we had a good cornerstone. We said, this is how we want to do this, Arizona. And then everybody's run with it and added their own blocks to, to kind of build the piece. So I'm sentimental in the fact that, we were there in the beginning, and we used to do a lot of stuff down at the public market downtown. I remember, it's been a great journey. I think there's a lot more to go.
Yeah.
But the energy is there. The community, the farming community has drastically changed. The farmers markets have drastically changed.
They're better. There's more of them.
There's more of them. People realize that, I was telling somebody a story of, buying tomatoes early on, and they were $9 a pound tomatoes. And I'm like, oh my God, $9 a pound tomatoes, but they were the best.
Yeah, they were good.
Well, now we've got more people producing. So supply and demand, and now they're $3.50 a pound. There's money on the table for people to make a living doing that. We did the farmers share dinners to expose people with the representation of the profitability of the farmers.
And what their share was, how many cents they got out of the dollar.
Out of the dollar. And we put a whole dinner on, and it was amazing. And I think it's advocacy, it's awareness, it's saying, hey, listen, okay, we can serve some desert shrimp.
Right.
And we could do that. And that might be a little bit off the kilter, but it's awareness. And hopefully there's many more people beyond myself. And I know there are, because I look at, Kimber Lanning and Local First Arizona. And that movement has just done such a justice for all of the parties involved. And it takes many, many hands to make this work.
And we have to fight for the local movement. We have to fight for the local food market, because it's so important, and it connects us to the land. And there's such a health. I'm just coming up here. Joel and I were just enjoying the drive, and the road gets a little narrower the more you go up the mountain. And we even were chuckling. It's like, this is way better than being at our desktops, So it was special.
Quality of life.
Quality of life. Then you also had Petit Maison.
Petit Maison, great little French restaurant, an old homage to the French bistro and the local products as well. And we sold that in 2015, and kind of went on in a different direction, and started what is now Terra Farm and Manor, theterramarket.com, which is where we offer our online beef.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously we've kind of gone way back, but what inspired you to be a chef in the first place? You're a native Arizonan.
Native Arizonan. I've lived all over the country. Wasn't smart enough to realize that I should probably go do anything else. And cooking at the time was for, guys that didn't necessarily have a direction and needed a little bit of elbow room to kind of express themselves. And I still need elbow room.
I think you're getting it here.
I think I'm getting it here. But it was a way. I came from a farming family,
Okay.
a background, Tucumcari, New Mexico. My grandfather
I think you told me that.
grew
now that you say
cotton
that. Yeah.
and alfalfa. We were in the horse racing business or horse business, breeding business at one point. And, for a young kid, there's nothing better than given the permission to go get on a tractor and go drive and realize that, it's you, the hay, and that's all that's out there. And that stuck with me. I still do it out here. It's kind of one of my things that I like to do because it connects me a lot to my childhood. But it was a path to be creative, and my grandmother was an extremely amazing cook. And I just fell in love with it. I like the lifestyle. I like the freedom. I like to be able to travel all over the world. So it's afforded me the ability to go see and eat from other cultures and other regions of what is grown in the country. So if you like food and you like to travel, being a chef is free.
Yeah.
There's some scar tissue along the way, mentally and physically, but it allows that to happen. And
Very cool. Well, and then the progression. What inspired Terra Manor?
Terra was a culmination of this involvement early on and doing these dinners and realizing that,
So Arizona Farm Bureau can even say they kind of inspired you a little bit?
We sure can.
Okay.
We sure can. Quite honestly, I just, when you're in a kitchen and you're looking at the ticket machine pop up, you're unless you own the place, which I did, your interaction with the end user is still very limited.
Oh.
And it kind of just clicked in my mind. I'm like, I'm over not connecting with the people that are eating the food. And I believe that an experience is the connection between the farmer, the chef, the ambiance of what you're doing. And I wanted to kind of piece these things together, and I met my partner, and we kind of drove out here, and he's like, "Hey, listen, I've got some property out here and the start of something." He goes, "So, what could you envision?" And I was like, "I'll give you a business plan in 24 hours.
Wow.
I've been stewing on this for my entire life. I know exactly what it is and how we can connect people together through food and hospitality."
So you're as much about relationship as you are about food creates relationship, but
100%. Why would you want to farm and work 363 days of the year and go through all of the trials and tribulations that farming and ranching have if there wasn't a relationship? You would have to be absolutely psychotic.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Which is fundamentally that's the challenge in this in growing food on a small scale, is that it requires that relationship between you and the land. And I don't know if generations are fading out of that, but maybe all of our efforts are going to inspire younger farmers and more local grown things where people find that connection is just as important.
Well, you've sure found it here. To me, this is the epitome of that whole local grown, locally raised beef and other animals, the cooking and teaching people to cook. I mean, it's like, you brought it together. It's the nexus of all those important elements.
It is. And as a chef, you go through periods, and, the first period of your career is you are able to fortunately develop my style of how I like to entertain people and connect them with the food. But then all of a sudden it gets to the point where you realize that, maybe I could work smarter and faster. And if the food just was absolutely gold coming out of the ground, then you don't have to do too much to it and manipulate it. And then people still think you're genius at the end of the day. So then I was like, actually the food is the most important part. And winemakers, you talk to any any winemaker, winemakers simply assemble some things very gently, but the wine is grown from the terroir, from the farmer. Wine is grown and tastes from the farmer, not the winemaker.
Well,
The winemaker is the conductor, comes up with a little bit of the fancy packaging, puts it together and understands it, but it's actually the people growing it. And we used to recognize
Yep.
these people at the dinners and make them stand up and raise their two hands, because it is their two hands that is the effect of what I'm recognized for.
it makes me think of something that Barbara Predmore, who has retired, she has sold her Alcantara, but Barbara Predmore used to say, I tell people I'm a farmer first and then a winemaker.
Yeah.
So I just, your comments there make me think of that. Pausing for station identification. I'm here with James Porter at Terra Manor for the Chef Series, and we're live, as you well know. If you've joined us and if you have any questions for us, don't hesitate to post in the question. Joel, who's my right-hand guy, he'll let us know if somebody posts a comment or a question. If you're curious about Terra Manor, let us know. If you have any questions for James about cooking in general, I'm going to ask him a few more. But my next question for you is Arizona agriculture, currently a $23.3 billion industry. We grow a lot of fruits and vegetables. We raise a lot of amazing beef. We do agriculture amazingly because of our climate. 300 plus days of sunshine allows us to be planting and harvesting 12 months out of the year. You guys are experiencing this up here in Prescott. What's your take on Arizona agriculture?
It's fundamentally flawed.
Oh no, not Arizona agriculture, but
I think some of the models are
Oh.
flawed, and I knew I'd get a good reaction out of you. I think some of the models are flawed. As we go back in our conversation, now look at how many farmers markets are available to people to shop. Wow.
compared to
20 years ago.
yeah,
15 years
that's
ago.
true.
Unbelievable. So that
Mhm.
means that people are catching
Right.
on to it. I think one of the challenges, and this is in any community, is distribution
Mhm.
and being able to get your market, being able to get your product to market.
Right.
And I think that, and that's the flaw, and that's the same flaw that, California, New Mexico, like all of
Yeah.
these states have, but it is
An example of that flaw is we don't have enough harvesting plants for our beef,
I
and a lot of local ones.
find
Yeah.
it to be, New Mexico has
Yeah.
zero. And I've been in,
Really?
I've been in conferences where they, scramble. So I would say that harvesting of, Arizona used to be a big cow operation. Then we went to sheep because it was just easier. Now we're a cow calf operation where we're just birthing them and getting them out of here because
We don't have enough.
we don't have enough
Yeah.
harvesting. So I think
I see where you're coming from.
people will
Yeah.
eventually start to connect that, and a lot of it is, yes, the bureaucracy of life.
Right.
But they'll make that connection and realize that once you grow it, you've got 3 more steps to deal with. You've got to
Right.
harvest it, market it, and get it on your plate.
Yeah.
Fill your plate.
And that's where some of the places were struggling. And we saw that supply chain hiccup during the pandemic. It was
we did.
scary.
It was scary. As I've always said, I applauded what happened during COVID to the system, because it made people realize that the system that we currently have is too vulnerable and it's not localized. And if we have a localized system, it allows people to continuously, not only during a pandemic, but to weather the storms of
Right.
climate, gas, all of the things that affect the cost of beef on your plate at the end of the day, or pork or chicken or alfalfa feed. It tames those. Water preservation. I think there's some regenerative agriculture practices that are huge that we've employed out here just by, quite honestly, Googling and talking to some friends of ours that are down in Gila Bend with Oatman Flats and those guys, and learning more about what that means.
Several of our farmers that are more well known as conventional farmers are also doing some of the regenerative. We're trying everything we can to
Save water.
not only save water, not only to save water, but just to make the system work.
And that's where I go again. I go back to that flaw. I think we've got a few more pieces.
Mhm.
We've excited the consumer. The
Mhm.
consumer is hungry for
You gotta
chef-driven,
find it.
local, amazing menus,
Yep.
farmers market. We know now to go get our eggs. We know that eggs are, commercialized eggs are they're a little tough.
Hmm.
Um, we know that beef coming from knowing what it's eating and what it's grazing on. And, we talk a lot about what we do. And if you think of what animals drink, cows, 15, 20 gallons a day of intake. Well, if they're drinking water from the city, look at what that meat is going to taste like. But if they're drinking out of a well that was hand dug in 1914, that's pristine water coming out of the aquifer, what do you think is going to be better? The vegetables. So we've got the pieces, we've got the excitement in the community. Now we just need better money management, legislation, the bureaucracy piece of it, which
Right.
is everybody has the ability to make that change.
They absolutely do. And I get a vibe that you want vegetables on your plate that are even a shorter time frame of from harvest to on your plate that's less than 24 hours.
Well, and which is funny because look at when we did our dinners in 2006
Yeah.
and 2007, and we were defined, locavore was the word of the year, and locavore meant that you bought your food within 100 miles, right? Now I joke that, and our ranch manager on property that handles everything out here, our joke is, I call on a radio and now we're going for like 10 minutes. Can we get a 10-minute onto the plate of the consumer? Now that's blown out of proportion a little bit from everybody else's everyday reality, but it's not for me. I have the ability
to do that now.
To have a tomato on the plate harvested within 10 minutes where the sugars are perfect, the flavors at its highest. It is at the most epic level where somebody goes, wow, that tomato required a little bit of vinegar and a little bit of salt. And that's the most amazing thing.
Well, I've always said you were a little bit of an idealist. No,
I try.
I think this is awesome. And one of the first things your farm manager said to me is he pointed in that direction and mentioned the hoop houses or the greenhouse. So you guys, the other neat thing, even though it gets pretty cold up here in the winter, you're still able to grow things year round.
We are. We've learned, again, I kind of go sometimes into things with a grandioso idea, and then the realization of life hits you in the head, and you're like, that's definitely not going to work, and we can't necessarily do that. But over the last couple of years, we've narrowed it down. We know how to get starts going. We know when we can get them in the ground. We know what our windows are. And it also, if I had access to every bit of food all the time, and my life would be boring. And there would be no stress, and it would be just okay, that's perfect again. So you get to actually relive what the farmer went through, 50, 100 years ago on harvesting food and eating, how they ate, why they bought whole cows. Yeah. You know what? After you run out of T-bones and filet mignon, you got to go to braised meats, and hopefully braised meats are in the winter when it's stew and you've got your potatoes. And it actually challenged me as a chef and I've always cooked seasonally and regionally, but it actually made it even more so where now I'm even more limited. So these challenges have actually been an inspiration.
And probably taught you a lot.
It does, because it forces you to go, you may have passed on that pepper in the city, but now up here you got to figure out how to make a pickled pepper, a roasted pepper, a pepper puree. Go through your Rolodex and figure out how to best utilize, which is a consumer issue that we have, is people only want the fillets and the ribeyes, and I'm one of those people. Mm-hmm. Liver is great. All of these other things that your parents ate and your parents' ate.
My mother loved liver.
How do we reintroduce those into our culture, our region, and maybe they're liver tacos in Arizona. Right. I don't know.
You never know. So, what are the trends in cooking? Hyper focused on cooking now. What are the trends?
What are trends in cooking? I think everybody still gravitates towards, the connection with the farmer. And I think that's just even more so elevated. And now now instead of just buying local beef, it's what particular type of beef. We raise 100% Tajimi Wagyu beef. And we are the largest Tajimi Wagyu beef grower in this state and probably some fairly close states because it is 100%.
Now, why did you go in that direction instead of maybe crossbreed or?
We did crossbreed.
Okay.
We why are we even in the cattle business? Is because I wanted a few cows out here, and I've got a crazy business partner that decided that maybe we should get more than one, and then if you get one and we get two, they start breeding, and now we're in the ranching business and scratching our head at times. But there's also something fulfilling mentally knowing where your food comes from.
Right.
But we went to the 100% is because the grow period on all of these animals are about the same, and it's economics. How do you create a better business model for the farmer of the future? Grow fresher seasonal vegetables, shipping them less as best as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Growing within the season reduces your travel cost, all of those sorts of things. And ours was, you know what? It's just better. You need 4 ounces of this amazing oleic, fat-driven, rich piece of beef that's not too rich, that does taste like beef, that is amazing, and that's why. So
It's way cool. So when you are talking to all your students at your cooking class here at Terra Manor, what's the number one tip you like to counsel your students on when it comes to cooking?
salt, vinegar, olive oil, good vegetables. That's it. That's actually all you need to cook with.
Really?
And get away from the seasoning packets and then this. Plant yourself a little. This is the first 20 minutes of when we're in there, and I'm trying to slurp down as much wine as I can to get going. But it's the windowsill herb garden. Good salt, good olive oil, and a simple vinegar, and with fresh vegetables and fresh herbs, you can cook like somebody that's been in the business for 20 years, 30 years.
Wow.
Like it is that simple. If you start with bad products, and if you start with dried stuff, and if you start with iodized salt, and
yeah,
you're going to get garbage on the plate. So, and it's funny, it's that simple. Like, just buy good food, buy local food, buy something in season.
Yeah.
That's actually it. If you just buy something in season, you're already at 75% excellence.
We actually counsel that when people ask us, well, what are the tips? And, I'm coming at it from the agriculture perspective, but I always say stick to the basics. And in its most natural form is the best way to do it. And surprise, surprise.
It's the first chapter in Escoffier, which is the grandfather of the founding father of all cooking, Escoffier. And it's, if you start with good ingredients, you'll end up with the good stuff.
Yep.
A good dish. And well, for a long time in this country, government cheese was a good ingredient. Well, we've surpassed that. Now we've got the local dairies, and we've got some other things in there. Mm-hmm. And we've got local meats. We've got amazing ranchers, the Kinnekins in this state, what we do in this state, the Harquist Hollow and their lamb program, all of these amazing people doing amazingly great products. They may not have everything for everybody, but that's food.
Right.
And if you take culturally how other countries run their food programs, that's why their food, when you leave the country, you're like, wow, this tastes great. Well, you know what? That lamb is perfectly grazed lamb on those marigolds or whatever it might be. Not marigolds, but they're grazed on that great vetch that's growing outside. And it happens to be, fall and spring or whatever. So just have fun and cook. But, go to your farmer's market, get an egg. We have a lot of people that come out here and, I don't eat eggs. I'm like, listen. Eat this egg, and if you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. Well, it's like $5,000 for the weekend or whatever. And they eat the egg, and they're like, wow, this is the most amazing thing. And I'm like, you know why? It's never been refrigerated. It just was laid 48 hours ago. Perfect. And a lot of people people get allergic, or they don't like eggs, or they think they have a reaction because of what we've actually done to overthink the egg movement process. We've bleached them. We've put them in sanitizer. It gets on the shell. It seeps into the product, whatever it might be. Have something fresh. Have a piece of meat that was grown on Arizona terroir. Look at our wine industry. Look at what the wine industry has done in 15 years, 20 years. I remember the day that Sam Pillsbury God bless him, and I love him to death, came into my restaurant and he handed me a perspective, and he was like, "Hey, I'm looking for investors." And I said, "Sam, I'm a chef. We're amazing, great friends, and he has a brand that is very representative of the terroir of with what
Yeah.
he's doing.
Dos Cabezas.
These guys are have taken that leap big time. Even Pavle down
Oh, I
and what
know. I'm
Pavle is doing
excited to
is
see what, and he's a little bit more recent than some of the
he
others.
is he's very recent. And he's taken the art. I mean, his facility, I've never been, but I've seen it, is pretty stunning,
It
and
is.
his knowledge is stunning. Like, people have been able to now comfortably take these leaps. That's why we opened up out here, is because that leap for me was, listen, I think there's people that want to know where their food comes from,
Right.
and learn some simple ways to cook some great food. I'm not turning out chefs.
So yeah, I mean, what's the typical profile of somebody that you've taught? Don't most of these adults that come your way cook, but they want the James Porter style, or what?
They want to elevate their game. They are looking for an experience. They're looking for learning where their food comes, talking to the guy that grew it. You know, if you
Right.
sit around long enough out here, you can talk to the guy that just harvested 10 minutes ago, grew it, knows everything about it, picked the weeds around it, did everything. And all of a sudden now there's a connection of, wow, it just didn't come from the grocery store. That all of that went into that piece of fruit before it actually got onto a truck and drove somewhere. And all of a sudden, I think that connection in your brain starts to move around a little bit, where you start to appreciate things a little bit more. You know, my grandmother, we would pick peaches out of the trees, and she didn't survive the Depression very well. And we'd pick peaches out of the trees, and she'd be picking peaches out on the ground, carving the rotten spots out with her pocket knife, because that's how you lived.
You didn't want to waste anything.
You didn't want to waste anything. Unfortunately, society has evolved over the years, and you know what? Listen, if you can't get it on Amazon and get it returned tomorrow because you didn't like it, you don't want to buy it.
Remember what we said on the way up here? I bet it's hard to get Amazon to come up here.
We don't do it. We don't do it.
And we were jesting, but the point being.
But why bother?
Yeah, why bother? You don't need to. And it teaches us to truly live off the land and appreciate the need.
And living off the land doesn't mean that you have to live in a remote location and do these things. Living off the land actually, to me, says seasonal, regional. And that's living off the land. Actually, if you just do seasonal and regional, you are far greater than 99% of the people that live in some big metropolitan areas.
Well, and the fortunate thing for most Arizonans is that they can do that because
364 days a year, pretty much.
Yep. Because all of our milk, the liquid milk, that gallon, that quart, that's coming from 97% of that is coming from our dairies.
Mm-hmm.
If you, especially in the winter, you're cruising the aisle. Yes, I always say, let's go to the farmers markets, but not everybody has that opportunity, nor do they take that opportunity. So cruise those produce aisles. We have wonderful produce, especially in the winter because of Yuma and Maricopa and Pinal County now. Pinal County is doing a lot more of the local produce. So it's pretty local. It might not be as local as you, but it's pretty local.
No, it is. We're fortunate.
The other neat thing I like to highlight is, even in our egg case, it's Hickman Eggs, and it's right down the road because they have a variety of barns. So we have a lot of local. We can really celebrate it, even if we're never going to get to Terra Manor. But for those that want to go to Terra Manor, you're typically busiest during the
spring and fall seasons. We kind of have seasons that are available on our website, terrafarmandmanor.com. If you go on there, or theterramarket.com, you can actually purchase our beef, our pork products. We make charcuterie. We make apothecary items, candles, and we're getting into to some of that that's been kind of inspired over the last year. That really gives you the full circle of full animal usage of going, wow, look at all these products that you can create, and you know how the homesteaders did it, but a little bit more modernized. But those are, and they're typically 3 or 4 day classes. We do a ton of private events where people want to come out and do, family reunions or corporate events or kind of off the grid events. Just don't want to be the Ritz-Carlton. I like the Ritz-Carlton. I like staying there. They've got 24-hour room service. but you can come here and it's definitely more authentic. You're drinking water that came out of a well that hasn't been touched, that is amazing. You're eating these products. You're talking to the people that actually work the land, the product, that cook it, that grow it, that understand where it came from. It's the connectivity. It goes back to what we just talked about. It's the connectivity and the relationship between you and your food. In many years before we had YouTube and TV and smartphones and all this, that connectivity is how we entertained ourselves. I mean, look at your father, and it was coffee in the morning with the guys before you went and harvested or did anything, and you sat at the local diner, and that was the connectivity to your food, because I'm learning that your combine is doing something that's like, all of that went on then. Now we've reverted to, digital entertainment. I think that's going to cycle back. I think people are realizing that, we've got a bunch of kids that don't know left from right and up from down, and don't know where their food comes, and think that chocolate milk comes out of chocolate cows.
Yeah.
And that scares me. I've seen that happen.
Yep.
So it is taking a little bit of the past, integrating it with some of the future, and preaching what I truly believe. I'm not going to be in the kitchen for the rest of my life, but I will always believe these simple practices, because I know from a fairly uneducated guy that these practices have great results, and they create a good harmony in life, and they're good, they're entertaining, it's better for you, and that's the business that I'm in.
So if I sign up and I pay, I can show up on Thursday. I'll get 3 days of cooking classes? What's the whole experience?
So you get about 2 days of actual cooking classes. I mean, most people don't want to work like I do and go into the kitchen for 14 hours a day. And then all of a sudden it starts to feel like work. They want to imbibe in between classes. So we try to do 2-3 hours a day of cooking classes, farm tours. We'll get them up to show them where things are, how it works. But also, a lot of people, believe it or not, are extremely comfortable with sitting on the porch in a rocker
and hanging
not
out.
having. We control the internet, so I always joke that if I see people too much on their phones, we'll just shut the internet down, and they won't be able to do anything.
I love it.
And it's funny. Different people, the disconnectivity of their normal life is another big thing for people, because a lot of people weren't raised where they could just walk out and see animals at night.
Yeah. Are they coming from all over the country?
They do. More so, and it ebbs and flows from year to year. We definitely get our fair share of Arizona, believe it or not, which I kind of misjudged in the beginning. I didn't think that we'd have that many people. I thought everybody, knew that Arizona had 5 seasons, and you could go from essentially the beach in Rocky Point, which I consider to be Arizona still a little bit, to the mountains of, you can be on the beach and ski all in the same day, in the same state almost.
James, I thought I was the only one that would say that. You can ski in the morning or sunbathe in the morning and then switch.
Yep.
And you can't do that hardly in any other state. Maybe California, I don't know. But we sunbathe in the morning, and then I want to go skiing, and so you just hop in the car and head up to Flagstaff or wherever.
So it's that exploration of being out here. I mean, Prescott and Prescott Valley and this whole area is just a gem of the state. That's why it was the original capital. That's why the pioneers came through these very lands. This property was built on a homestead in 1914.
Awesome.
Somebody prior to us was just as smart as us and said, "Hey, you know what?
This is where I want to be.
This is where we want to be, and this is where we want to grow." And there are challenges up here growing, but there's amazing growers. Whipstone Farms down the street. Paulden has some amazing farmers out there. Castle Hot Springs, beautiful area. They're growing some amazing things and doing some amazing products out there. So I think there's this movement of, yes, we can be flashy, we can have the 24-hour this and that, but you know what? Nobody can deliver vegetables within 10 minutes. And if you truly care about food, and that's why you're there, then that number actually means something to you versus, can I get a turkey sandwich at 2 o'clock in the morning?
It's the middle of August. What is it, the 17th, the 16th?
The windows are open.
The windows are open. I feel the breeze.
Beer's chilled.
Ooh, darn. We're in the company truck. I'll have to come back up here again. I'm going to have to save some pennies for this, but
That's all right.
it'll be
That's
worth
all
it.
right.
Thank you so much, James. And as always, the story of local and celebrating regional is alive and well with you and so many other chefs. And for those of you that have joined us, thank you for joining us. We've got at least one more chef that we're going to interview in the series. Stick with us. We have all sorts of amazing people like James Porter to interview. The task is not done. Joel, did we have anybody that quizzed or commented?
We did have a comment from Christy Wilson. Sounds like you have an offer a great experience.
Oh, awesome.
Hot dog.
And I know Christy Wilson. She's a nutritionist down in Tucson, just a rock star young woman.
Love it.
And she loves local. She loves food, and she celebrates it. So thank you, everyone. Again, blessings to you, and we'll see you next Friday on Talk to a Farmer, Talk to a Chef Friday.